Have you ever looked at your life, at the years stretching behind you, and wondered what's still weighing you down? After 70, I've learned that the secret to a peaceful, happy life, especially in love and intimacy, isn't about holding on tighter, but about letting go. Today, I'm sharing 8 things you need to throw away to rediscover joy, reignite connection, and feel truly alive in your relationships, no matter how many decades you've loved someone. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will shift how you see yourself, your partner, and the life you're building together. I promise you'll walk away with practical wisdom that feels like a warm hug from a friend who's been there. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I encourage you to click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content. Your support means the world, so if this video resonates with you, please give it a thumbs up to help spread this message. I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below with the number 1 if you find this helpful, or a 0 if it doesn't quite hit the mark. Your feedback shapes these videos, and I'm so grateful for it. Now, let's dive in. Picture this: I'm sitting on my front porch with a cup of chamomile tea, the kind my mama used to make, watching the sunset paint the sky pink. It's the kind of moment that makes you pause and think about what really matters. A few years ago, I was cleaning out my attic, boxes of old letters, faded photos, and trinkets from a lifetime with my husband, Walter. We'd been married 47 years, and as I sifted through those memories, I realized something profound. The things that made our love strong weren't the keepsakes I was holding onto, but the things we'd let go of along the way: habits, fears, and expectations that were dragging us down. That's when I started writing down the 8 things I'm sharing with you today, lessons learned from a life full of love, heartbreak, and everything in between. Let me take you back to a moment that changed how I saw my marriage. Walter and I were in our late 60s, and life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. But comfortable isn't always good. We were busy with grandkids, community events, and doctor's appointments, and somewhere along the way, our connection started to feel routine. I'd look at him across the dinner table and miss the man who used to make my heart race with a single glance. I started wondering, is this just what happens after so many years? Does the spark just fade? But deep down, I knew it wasn't about age. It was about the invisible baggage we were both carrying. That's when I realized the first thing to throw away: the myth that love should stay the same forever. Oh, honey, if I could sit you down with a slice of my homemade pecan pie, I'd tell you this with all my heart: love changes, and that's not a bad thing. When we were newlyweds, love was all passion and late-night whispers. In our 40s, it was teamwork, raising kids, and stealing kisses between chores. By our 70s, it was quieter, deeper, like a river that runs steady instead of rushing. But I was holding on to the idea that love should still feel like it did at 25, and that expectation was stealing my joy. Here's where so many of us get stuck. We think if the butterflies are gone, something's wrong. But love after 70 isn't about chasing the past, it's about embracing the beauty of now. Walter and I had to learn this the hard way. One night, I was washing dishes, and he was reading the paper, and I just blurted out, "Do you still love me like you used to?" He looked up, surprised, and said, "No, I don't. I love you more, but it's different now." That stung at first, but then he took my hand and said, "Back then, I loved you for how you made me feel. Now, I love you for who we've become together." That moment was a wake-up call. I had to let go of the fantasy that love should feel young forever and start cherishing the love we had right then: rich, weathered, and real. Here's a practical tip: sit down with your partner and ask, what does love mean to you now? Not 20 years ago, not when you met, but today. Write down one thing you both love about your relationship in this season of life. For Walter and me, it was our morning coffee ritual, sitting quietly, no words needed, just being together. That small act of noticing what's good right now can shift your whole perspective. It's like clearing out an old closet: you make space for something new to grow. The second thing to throw away is the need to control how your partner shows love. Oh, This one's hard, especially for us women who've spent decades keeping everything together: kids, home, schedules. I used to get so frustrated when Walter didn't show affection the way I wanted. I'd drop hints about wanting flowers or a sweet note, and he'd mow the lawn or fix the leaky faucet instead. I'd think, doesn't he know what I need? But here's the truth: love doesn't always look the way you expect, and trying to control it only builds resentment. I remember talking to my friend Clara, who's 82 and still holds hands with her husband like they're teenagers. She told me, stop waiting for him to love you your way. Notice how he's already loving you. That hit me like a ton of bricks. I started paying attention to Walter's quiet acts, how he'd warm my side of the bed before I got in or make sure my car had gas. Those were his love letters, written in actions, not words. Once I let go of my script for how love should look, I felt so much lighter. Our intimacy grew because I wasn't just waiting for him to get it right, I was meeting him where he was. Try this: for 1 week, keep a little notebook and jot down every small thing your partner does that feels like love, even if it's not your style. Maybe it's the way they make your tea just right or listen when you ramble about your day. Then, tell them one thing from that list that touched you. I did this with Walter, and when I thanked him for always checking my tires, his face lit up. That small moment of gratitude opened up a warmth between us we hadn't felt in years. The third thing to throw away is the fear of being vulnerable. Now, I know this is scary, especially when you've been hurt before or you've built walls over decades. After 70, it's tempting to play it safe, to keep your heart guarded. But intimacy, emotional and physical, thrives on vulnerability. Walter and I hit a rough patch in our 50s when I stopped sharing my fears. I was worried about aging, about my body changing, about whether he still found me desirable. But instead of telling him, I pulled back. I'd avoid his touch or make excuses, thinking, if I don't open up, I can't get hurt. One evening, we were sitting by the fireplace, and he said, "You've been so far away lately. Did I do something wrong?" His voice was so gentle, it broke me open. I took a deep breath and told him everything: how I felt invisible sometimes, how I worried I wasn't enough anymore. Tears came, and I felt so exposed, but then he reached for me and said, "You're more beautiful to me now than ever, because I know every piece of you." That night, we didn't just talk, we reconnected in a way that felt deeper than when we were young. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the bridge to closeness. Here's something you can do today: share one small fear or hope with your partner, something you've kept inside. It could be as simple as, "I worry you don't notice me sometimes," or "I hope we can keep making memories together." Start small, but be honest. When you let your guard down, you invite your partner to do the same, and that's where real intimacy begins. For me, that moment by the fireplace wasn't just a conversation, it was the start of a new chapter in our love story. The fourth thing to throw away is the guilt over past mistakes. Oh, how we carry those regrets, don't we? I used to replay every argument, every time I snapped at Walter or didn't listen when he needed me. I'd think, if only I'd been more patient, maybe we'd be closer now. That guilt was like a heavy stone in my heart, keeping me from fully enjoying the present. But here's what I learned: mistakes don't define your love, they shape it. Every fight, every misunderstanding, taught us how to love better. I'll never forget the time I apologized to Walter for something I'd held onto for years. We'd had a big fight in our 40s about money, and I'd said things I didn't mean, words that cut deep. Decades later, it still nagged at me. One quiet afternoon, I said, "I'm sorry for what I said back then. I didn't mean to hurt you." He looked at me, surprised, and said, "I forgave you a long time ago. Why are you still carrying that?" That's when I realized guilt was only hurting me, and us. Letting it go didn't erase the past, but it freed me to love him fully in the present. Here's a practical step: think of one thing you're still holding on to, something you wish you'd done differently. Write it down, then burn that paper or tear it up. Tell yourself, I'm letting this go so I can love better today. If it feels right, share that release with your partner. When I told Walter I was done carrying that old fight, he pulled me close and said, "Good. Now we've got more room for the good stuff." And let me tell you, that lightness brought us closer in ways I can't even describe. The fifth thing to throw away is the pressure to keep up with society's idea of intimacy. Oh, honey, this one's a biggie. In our world, magazines, movies, even those ads on TV make it seem like intimacy is all about looking young, being wild, or keeping things spicy like you're still in your 20s. But after 70, I've learned that real intimacy isn't about performing or meeting some Hollywood standard, it's about what feels true for you and your partner. Walter and I used to feel this invisible pressure, like we had to keep up or prove our love was still vibrant. But that pressure only made us feel inadequate, like we were failing at something we'd already mastered in our own way. I remember a moment when we were at a friend's 50th anniversary party. Everyone was dancing, laughing, and the couple was putting on a big show, kissing for the crowd, acting like newlyweds. I looked at Walter and felt a pang of envy, thinking, why don't we do that anymore? But later, as we drove home, he reached for my hand and said, "I don't need a dance floor to show you I love you. I'm happy just sitting here with you." That's when it hit me, our intimacy wasn't less because it didn't look like someone else's. It was ours, quiet and steady, like a fire that warms you without roaring. Here's a tip to try: have an honest talk with your partner about what intimacy means to you both now. Forget what the world says, ask, what makes you feel close to me? For us, it was simple things, like lying in bed talking about our dreams or holding each other during a rainy afternoon. Once we stopped comparing ourselves to others, we found so much joy in our own way of loving. Write down one thing that makes you feel connected, then do it this week. It might be a touch, a look, or just sitting quietly together. That's your intimacy, and it's perfect just as it is. The sixth thing to throw away is the habit of keeping score. Oh, how easy it is to fall into this trap, especially after decades together. You know what I mean, mentally tallying who did the dishes last, who apologized first, or who's been more affectionate. I used to do this with Walter, especially when I was tired or stressed. I'd think, I always plan our dates, or he hasn't said I love you in days. That scorekeeping built a wall between us, making every interaction feel like a transaction instead of a gift. One summer, I was feeling particularly grumpy about this. I'd organized a family picnic, and Walter didn't seem to notice the effort I'd put in. I was ready to give him the silent treatment, but then I remembered something my mama used to say: love isn't a ledger, it's a garden. You don't count what you plant, you just keep tending it. So, instead of sulking, I said, "Walter, I'd love it if we could plan something together next time." He nodded, and the next week, he surprised me with a little evening walk to our favorite ice cream shop. It wasn't about evening the score, it was about growing our love together. Try this: for one day, let go of any mental tally. If you catch yourself thinking, it's their turn, pause and do something kind instead, no strings attached. Maybe it's making their coffee or giving them a quick hug. Notice how it feels to give without expecting anything back. When I started doing this, I realized love flows so much easier when you're not keeping track. It's like clearing out weeds so your garden can bloom. The seventh thing to throw away is the fear of change. After 70, change can feel like the enemy: new routines, new health challenges, new ways of living. But in love, change is your friend if you let it be. Walter and I had to face this when his arthritis got worse, and our active lifestyle slowed down. We used to love hiking and dancing, but suddenly, those things weren't as easy. I worried our connection would suffer without those shared moments. But instead of resisting, we embraced the change and found new ways to be close. One winter, when Walter couldn't walk far, we started a new ritual: reading aloud to each other. We'd curl up with a blanket and take turns reading old novels or poetry. It wasn't the same as dancing under the stars, but it was just as intimate, maybe more so, because we were discovering each other in a new way. Change forced us to get creative, and that creativity brought us closer. I learned that love doesn't depend on what you do, it depends on how you show up for each other. Here's something you can do. Think of one change in your life or relationship that's been hard to accept. Maybe it's a health issue, a move, or just aging. Then, find one small way to make that change a chance to connect. If you can't go on long walks anymore, try a short stroll and talk about your day. If your energy's lower, share a quiet moment instead of a big outing. Write down one new ritual you could start, and give it a try this week. For us, those reading nights became some of our most cherished memories, proof that change can be a gift if you let it. The eighth and final thing to throw away is the belief that it's too late to start over. Oh, this one's so important, because I know how easy it is to think, we've been this way for years, why bother now? But let me tell you, it's never too late to rebuild, to reconnect, to fall in love again with the person right beside you. I saw this in my friend Evelyn, who's 87 and lost her husband a few years ago. She thought her days of love were over, but then she met George at a community center. They started as friends, sharing stories over coffee, and slowly, they built something beautiful. At 87, Evelyn found love again, not because she was chasing youth, but because she believed her heart still had room to grow. For those of you with a partner, this means it's not too late to try something new. Walter and I decided in our 70s to take a painting class together, even though neither of us could draw a straight line. We laughed so hard at our terrible artwork, and those classes became a spark we didn't expect. It wasn't about the paintings, it was about showing up, being curious, and saying, "We're not done yet." Your love story isn't over, no matter how many chapters you've written. Here's a final tip: pick one small thing to do with your partner that feels fresh. It could be trying a new hobby, writing them a letter, or just asking, "What's something you've always wanted us to do together?" Take that first step, no matter how small. When Walter and I hung our awful paintings on the wall, we'd giggle every time we passed them. Those moments reminded us that our love was still alive, still growing, still ours to shape. So, there you have it, 8 things to throw away after 70 for a peaceful, happy life in love. The myth that love stays the same, the need to control how it's shown, the fear of vulnerability, the guilt over past mistakes, the pressure to meet society's standards, the habit of keeping score, the fear of change, and the belief that it's too late. Each one you let go of is like dropping a stone from your heart, making room for joy, connection, and intimacy that feels right for you. Let me leave you with this: love after 70 isn't about being young again, it's about being fully present, fully you, and fully open to the person you've chosen to walk this life with. Walter passed a few years ago, but the lessons we learned together still light my way. Every time I sip my chamomile tea on that porch, I feel him with me, in the quiet love we built by letting go of what didn't matter. Now, I want to hear from you. What's one thing you're ready to throw away to make your relationship stronger? Drop it in the comments below. I read every one, and your stories mean so much to me. If this video touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more wisdom from a life well lived. Let's keep this conversation going, because love, at any age, is worth it. See you in the next one.